have done a visual check. Christine, you checked everybody is present from the committee with the exception of Director David still, so we will push past roll call. My page is in the right order here. So we acknowledge and respect the Indigenous people within whose traditional lands we're meeting today. I'd like to go to item 4, adoption of the agenda, and I have to make a note. The agenda as published is what is on the RDCK website. eScribe had an interim update and shouldn't have gone there, noting that a few items may not be removed, and there are no items removed from this agenda. There may be some items referred to September. So the published agenda that is on the website is the agenda that we're looking to adopt. So I look for a motion to adopt the agenda as published RDCK website. Chair Watson. I need a second, sir, before I go to second. Thank you, Hannah Graff, Director Vandenberg.
Just for clarity, what's the difference between the two?
There is an indication on eScribe, which is an internal system the public cannot see, that may have suggested removal of 2 items, 7.2 and 7.3. Those items are not removed from the agenda. They're on the published agenda, and we'll address them in this meeting when we get it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on the agenda? See none. All in favor? As presented, I see we have majority in the room. That's carried. I'd like to offer or entertain a motion to offer freedom of the floor to Director Main. I see Director Newell. We have a second. Anagraph, any objections? All in favor? So welcome again, Director Main. It's nice to see that you're keeping up with us and things have settled down for you at home a little bit, hopefully. Yes. So, and it's nice you're still able to spend the time to stay in touch with what's going on with this community.
I think it's really important.
Yeah, thank you. So we have, the minutes have been received, and of course, they went to board last month. I've not heard any concerns about those. Delegations, we do have one delegation in the room, Robert Measures for item 7.5. So when we get to that item, he will be able to speak or answer questions if he so desires. So under 7, planning and building 7.1, we have a staff report and recommendation to remove a notice on title in Area E for the property on Lewis Road, Evan Arno and Jillian Irvine, I guess to staff. This was mandates, but any comments or updates beyond what's already in your report or your memorandum?
No, there's no more comments.
Okay. Any questions from the committee, or would anyone want to move their recommendation? I see Director Graham's hand. You're moving your recommendation?
Yes, please.
Okay, we have a second, Director Hanegraaff, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? So that is carried, goes to board tomorrow. Thank you. Next item 7.2 was a building bylaw contravention with a recommendation to place a notice on title. I'll turn it over to CEO Horn. Staff's recommendation here.
Sure. Through the chair, for both 7.2 and 7.3, we'd like to request referral of these items to the September meeting. There was a mix-up with respect to notice to the homeowners that their application, their notice on title would be considered at this meeting. So we have to allow for that time to notify them, and that would give us that time if this was referred to September.
So moved.
And is it appropriate for him as a block? We're not acting on it. Yeah, so as a block, we have moved and seconded to refer. We don't need discussion. The propriety has been provided by CEO Barn. All in favor of referral? So I see the hands in the room. That's carried. Both of those are referred to September. Item 7.4 is the development variance permit application. Filippo, this is on Highway 6 in Area G. We don't have either online or in person a delegation for that one. Stephanie has prepared the board report. Did you want to give us a Coles notes or any updates on it?
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
And I just wanted to outline that we do have the applicant here, Robert Filippo. So he is here representing his application from the applicant side. As the committee knows, this development variance permit application seeks to vary section 8.02, individual groundwater services under the RDCK subdivision bylaw for the proposed remainder lot only, and the request is to waive proof of groundwater. No new development committee will recall this is to facilitate a subdivision proposal. The committee has seen a bylaw amendment application to change the official community plan land use designation and rezone the proposed new lot for residential use. And that received third reading on June 13th of this year. The proposed 13.4 hectare remainder lot will retain the existing Parks and Recreation official community plan designation and zoning. And the related amendment bylaw is on tomorrow's regular open meeting agenda for the board's consideration of adoption. So all other servicing requirements for the proposed new residential lot would remain in effect. And this request is just for the remainder portion where there's no new development proposed.
Great, thank you. And so my apologies when I was told Robert's here. I flipped through my agenda and there's Robert on item 7.5. So apologies, Mr. Popo. I circled you under the wrong item. However, that said, if you wish, you could speak or you could come to the table to answer any questions that the directors may have.
If there's any questions, I will.
Sure, if you want to join us here, thanks very much. So on the application, are there any questions from the committee members? Don't see anybody.
Yep.
Go ahead, Director Greenberg.
Will this then further, is this under the auspices of the LR for further review?
Through the chair, this application, the subject property is not part of the agricultural land.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Yes, it's fairly straightforward. Do thank you for coming here and being available if required, but then if you wouldn't mind stepping back to the gallery, we will go to the staff recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Stephanie, for staff, or does somebody want to move their recommendation? Director Handegraff moves her recommendations. Tierney seconds.
Director Cunningham.
Sorry. It is Director Cunningham, sorry, and that's fine. You have the floor, Director Cunningham.
Thank you. I think the thing is very clear what needs to be done, and I certainly appreciate staff for the work they've done and the presenter for being here. I'm fully behind the recommendation.
Thank you. And then the remaining area remains parks, so it's not subject to development. Further discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all in favor? So that is carried. Now we'll go to our board tomorrow morning as a recommendation to the board. So thank you again.
We'll see you tomorrow.
7.5, non-adhering residential use measures. This is Robert and Yoshi measures, not present as a delegation. I misspoke. It's been referred a couple times now, May and then into July. We have staff report recommendation to support. This one is Zach. Do you want to give us any updates or, Corey's here today and not Zach. We don't have Zach. Is there any staff update on this or is Zach on hand? There he is. Zach, do you? Sure. Thank you. Any update?
I can give a brief update. Is my sound okay?
Yes, thank you.
Can we just ask that Director Cunningham mute? The background sound is interfering. Thank you.
Yeah, so through the chair, this application was first considered by RAC in May. In the original referral, the applicant was proposing a secondary residence with a gross floor area of 150 square meters. At that May meeting, staff recommended that the board not support it because the proposal was not consistent with the zoning bylaw. So the application was referred to a future meeting to provide the applicant with an opportunity to revise their proposal. Now the applicant is proposing that the secondary residence be a total of 90 square meters, which does comply with the zoning bylaw. So the recommendation in the staff report is that the board support the application as presently submitted.
Thanks, Zach. Any questions for staff or wanting to move? Go ahead, Director Vandenberg.
Thank you to the chair, to Zach. As I go through this, I thought it was a question of exemption for floodplain management for the bylaw 2080. And as I understand what is trying to occur here, are you satisfied that the project will present limited risk in its setback, in the setbacks that are proposed?
So through the chair to
Yes.
Director Vandenberg. It's noted by staff that based on our mapping, the proposed location of the secondary residence could be below the flood construction level for the Salmo River. So an application for a site-specific floodplain exemption may be required. But the applicant has acknowledged that and indicated that prior to completing any further work by, for example, a surveyor to confirm the floor elevation, they first want to proceed with the ALC referral to determine if the ALC is actually supportive of the application in principle, because there would be a significant cost to the work to confirm the function. So their strategy is to first proceed with this ALC referral. You are correct in noting that a floodplain exemption application may be required if this application is approved by the ALC and if it moves forward to a building permit application. But that information would be provided at a later date.
That's good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, including, we don't even have a floor plan proposal for the reduced size, I understand. So that would also be invested in later, producing that. Further questions for staff, or does anyone want to move the recommendation on the agenda?
Dr. Cunningham is waving.
Okay, Director Cunningham, go ahead.
Simply, I support the recommendation, and I like the work staff's done, and I understand. I think this is the correct way to proceed. Why spend big gobs of loot trying to say build a berm to build on or raise it above the floodplain when in fact you haven't got the LR support yet? So I think this is entirely correct, and I support it fully.
So you're moving the recommendation. Do we have a second? Director Hanegraaff, further discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, all in favor? One call for opposed. I see majority here. So that is carried. That also goes to board tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6.7, 7.6, site-specific exemption to floodplain management bylaw, Woolley. This is electoral area H. Angus and Rachel Woolley. So this one, Corey prepared the staff report. We have a recommendation to approve from the 20 current years to 17. Corey, Cole's notes, please, and any changes?
Chair, so no changes to the staff report. So Cole's notes, the applicant seeks relief from the 30-meter floodplain setback for the Slocan River in order to authorize the construction of a dwelling with an attached deck located 17 meters from the natural boundary of the river. Dwelling was previously approved in 2015 for an exemption of 20 meters setback, so the difference is 3 meters. And the difference being the applicant was not aware that the deck would be considered in part of that exemption and began construction on the deck, encroaching into the approved setback area. So that's why we're here today with this application to remedy that issue of building the deck within the approved setback.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Director Vandenberg.
Again, I'll ask the question around the accepted risk in this approval. Is it small, medium, high? We're talking 3 meters into a floodplain area. So what is the potential liability around that risk?
Through the chair, there's always some element of risk, but on that topic, met with the geotechnical engineer as well as the applicant. And geotechnical engineers have the opinion that can be used safely for the intended use under this design and this siting. And then just in case they've engineered the footings of that deck as well. So if it were subject to flood hazard, flooding in the future, they don't have any concerns that it would be greatly impacted. So always some element of risk, but in this case, it's pretty low risk by the opinion of the geotechnical engineer.
Good, thank you.
Further questions? First, Director Papa, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to commend staff on doing this report. I did talk to Corey, and I believe they wouldn't have recommended approval if they did not consider the risk. And that was a good question that you did ask, Director Vandenberg. But I believe staff does consider the risk when they recommend approval. Am I correct, Corey?
Yeah, Corey's nodding, I guess. Risk is part of the consideration, as you said. Yes.
Definitely. And through the chair, Steph also reminded me that the registration of the covenant in the defined regional district is also subject to be approved.
Great, thank you. So Director Papa, do you want to move a recommendation?
Yes, I will move the recommendation. Thank you.
And we have a second in the room here. Discussion on the recommendation. Director Vandenberg.
Other than Director Papa's comment that my questions may not be necessary, but I think they are. And because we're having a public debate and conversation around this, and so this is the response that Corey gave is certainly amenable to any of the public that is paying attention and listening to today. So I think it's worthwhile asking the questions. And there is never a dispute on the quality of this network. Thank you.
I'll add to that a little bit. Director Papa and I did talk about this previously by phone, and more in general, I think what we might be looking for as a rural committee is a little more clear policy on how and when we address risk, and notice on title where we have non-compliance with building or non-compliance with correction to provide engineering reports for issues such as this, to see that there's some reassurance that the risk has been examined versus some landowners say, no, I'm not doing anything, leave me alone. So I think a little bit of policy discussion around that might be in order down the road, and it would apply differently to flood hazard risks and this sort of thing, like this incidents versus non-compliance with BC Building Code, where sometimes the risks are hidden or unknown, but they still may be there. So I think there could be a policy discussion. All questions are welcome. All questions are valid. It's just maybe sort of setting the bar. Right now, we're relying on external professionals, geotechnical and or structural engineers, and make sure we have that bar in the right place. And in other cases where the bar is not met, what do we do? Do we notice on title and walk away, or do we have some other policy in place to take other measures? So thank you. This is where the public does need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. So recommendation moved, seconded. Further discussion, all in favor? None. That is carried from the vote in the room here alone. Thank you. 7.7. Life has been busy. I think this would have almost fallen on Corey and or Nelson and or Sangita, but everybody's busy with EOC, lots going on. Staff is being required to backfill various positions with the activity. So staff has a recommendation that this being a big topic, and we want the right people in the room for the discussion, that staff is asking this be referred to September RAC. Director Vandenberg.
We have been referred to September RAC.
Referral, Anagraph seconds. We don't really need a discussion on referral, and I think we want to have a fulsome conversation. All in favor? Well, I'll come to you if I can, Director Ming, later. All in favor of referral? Thank you. So this major piece of work will go to September. Director Ming, yes.
Thank you very much. In item 1, sub-items A through H, and a number of these items also apply to municipalities, so I would ask that the municipal directors be at least notified that these things will be under consideration as part of the work plan, so that if they choose to attend to hear what's being discussed, they can.
So I appreciate that comment. We're not going to have a debate about it here. This is the cart before the horse thing, where the rural directors get a better handle on all the stuff that are coming under rural admin before delving into the overlap and full meeting with the municipal directors to be workshop or do it in committee. Probably going to have to be workshop. It's such a huge item, not be a single item, one morning, full morning type thing. So yes, that's noted, and we'll continue to talk about that at exact how best to manage this big chunk of work, which is going to span several years, and trying to respond to whatever the province says we've got to do next year, because we don't know. So thanks for that observation. Item 8, there are no environmental services items again. Item 9, we have rural admin is Pew Community Works fund applications. We could move them as a block, as a committee, 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3 if you want. Moved as a block to go to rural. Does anybody need, looking for a second as a block? I have 3 hands here, seconded Chair Watson. Someone feels they need to, they call division. Otherwise, I think it's fairly straightforward. Any discussion on these 3 recommendations, Director Vandenberg?
Just for clarity's sakes, so not to take away from the work that's being proposed here, but generally, this type of capital asset project, is that not determined at the beginning of a budget year, or is it normal that as the year progresses, because it's the funding of the community funding source, that they just pop up when discovered and required? Just a question around the clarity.
I don't know if CEO can speak to this. I think a lot of these are well-known items that have been pushed off due to budgetary concerns year over year.
Yeah, through the chair, a lot of the budgets would include them actually coming from Community Works grants. So we actually have an account in our budget line as a revenue source that says Community Works grant. And through discussions at budget time, there might be a capital need that would come up. Staff would let the director know it does qualify for Community Works if you want to go that route. And the director might commit to that at budget time to say, yes, I'd like to fund that 50,000, 60,000, whatever it is from Community Works. So we'll actually put that in the budget that the revenue is not coming from taxation or any more reserves. It's coming from Community Works grant funding.
And in this example, was that exactly the process, or did this come up later?
Through the chair, I'd have to look at each one of these 3 individual applications to confirm.
Some came up later.
But some do come up later. Yeah, through the chair.
If I may.
Go ahead.
And again, I'm not saying I'm going to take against these at all, but I feel that some of the information in there is not all there. It's not a complete picture. It's not a business case type of thing. It's just a request to replace a HVAC generator and pave a parking lot that I have no idea what kind of shape it's in. So it's limited information. And I know, and I understand that it's work in that area, but I'm taking this and trying to apply it to my area or other areas to determine how this works itself through. And the transparency to the public needs to be a concern in my mind all the time. So that's why I'm choosing to have this little bit of a sideline discussion on this particular example of an item.
Okay, so staff has to be very careful about vetting eligibility and these meet criteria, and then staff also are responsible for asset management. So where those 2 mesh is all I can say. Chair Watson, did you have a comment? We have 3 specific recommendations. I haven't heard any comment to any of the specifics, but go ahead.
We are off topic on the motion specifically, but just as context, when it comes down to it, like the director for that service, this one being Newell, as you're doing that budget process, you would be in full consultation with not only the service that this is going to or the entity it's going to and your constituents that might be involved in that in terms of taxation. So the level of detail is related to the area it's specific to. Community Works applications are federal applications. So they're actually the most onerous and most detailed grant application you'll see go through us. But the details you're looking for is really in the budget process. And that's where Newell would have worked with his services and his residents who would be paying for them around. So we can do this on taxation, we can do this by granting. That's the level of detail that we would, if we were doing that at our board table, we would need another 3 days for board. So it's just good to know where that information is. And I just talked to Newell when we have those kind of questions, or whoever director it is. Some of my community works I've had to set aside for 6-7 years on the conversation on the details would be 6-7 years worth of conversation. So just some background.
Thank you for
And staff's available to brief you and give you recommendations on what's eligible in your area, certainly. And or if we share pool funds, which we've done in the past in Crescent Valley. So we have a block 3 recommendations to go to board tomorrow for the discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? So those are.
Oh, Weatherhead, hand up.
Sorry. Weatherhead, please go ahead, Dr. Weatherhead.
Thank you. Sorry, this is just when our staff, when we're using the Community Works grants in more internally, do those have to actually come to RAC as well?
They all need board approval.
This has been our method of vetting them. I guess it could go straight to board, but that just pumps up this conversation into the board agenda, which is already inherently triple the amount of work or more.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I believe there's something in our policy around community works grants being vetted by a committee first and not going directly to the board.
Part of that is likely because we decided years ago to pool rural community works funding. We had various initiatives. We bought some, we did street lighting upgrades and did other various upgrades pools. So that may be the genesis of it, Director Weatherhead.
Okay.
But it's a good place to have conversations here versus trying to get the conversation aboard.
Right. Thank you.
Through the chair, Uli is online and would like to speak.
Okay, now I'm going to take this as after the vote. I called for comment, called for hands. These three are approved it on the board. We're continuing a little bit of conversation, but these three, we've moved past these three. They're on the agenda for tomorrow. I saw that we've approved these three.
No, I just didn't know if we were revisiting.
Yeah, so I'm not revisiting a vote. However, absolutely a little bit of conversation here. Manager Wolf, General Manager Wolf, or sorry, Director Weatherhead, did you have a follow-up or do you want to go to Uli?
No, I'd like to hear what Director Wolf has to say. Thank you.
General Manager Wolf, please go ahead, Uli.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have on occasion bypassed the commission level and went straight to board. The situation where we do this or did this was when we had at the same time a financial plan amendment required. Then we have gone straight and it was timely or time sensitive. We have went straight to board level with a resolution for the community works approval and the associated financial plan amendment. But that is fairly rare that we do that. Normally it comes always through RAC.
Director Newell.
If I may, through the chair to the CAO, are we getting another allotment this year?
It's on tomorrow. Board.
What? No, I saw the thing, but I didn't see how the.
Yeah, through the chair, normally it's in July, so you would have received that. Through the chair, normally the second payment's in July, so that probably would come in and you'd be seeing your balance is updated.
Okay, because mine reflects to whatever, and just want to make sure that you're the infusion.
And for clarity of communication, I see Chair Watson did put a note. I tried to agree with it and it didn't capture everything I said. The screen I'm looking at there, when you put your hand up or wave your hand, we can't see it because I might be looking at a stagnant image from 2 minutes. Please do use chat because we always have somebody monitoring chat for communications. So, business items we've gone through. We're at item 10, public time. We do have, let me just go to participants. We do have members of the public. So just giving a moment or two, if anybody has a question for this committee, please unmute yourself, state your name and ask your question.
No.
I'm just sorry, was that a question?
It's Director Cunningham.
Oh, Director Cunningham, you're unmuted. We're picking up your microphone there. Just giving another minute. I caught some criticism a few meetings back for not giving people time to unmute and ask a question. So just again, sort of like the third and final time, any questions from the public for this committee? Hearing none, would entertain a motion to adjourn. Director Newell, Hanegraaff, without objection, we are adjourned. Thanks very much, everybody. Everybody has lots of work to do. See you at joint at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair.
A new record or?
Oh, no, it's not. But
We're trying to get to the record, I can tell.
no,
We're slowing down all over the place.
we have lots of work to do. And we have no conversational items on this that need to be talked about in general, except Director Main's big topic. And muting us because the meeting has not put in.